The year was 2147, and humanity had spread across the stars. They had colonies on distant worlds, space stations orbiting alien suns, and ships that could travel faster than light. But despite all this progress, humans remained peaceful. They traded with other species. They shared technology. They believed that the universe was big enough for everyone. The Empire did not share this belief. Commander Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the Starship Horizon, watching the stars through the main window. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the fleet for 30 years, but he had never seen real war. None of them had. Humanity had been lucky. They had avoided the great conflicts that other species fought across the galaxy. That luck was about to end. The first alarm came at 600 hours, Earth Standard Time. Hayes was drinking his morning coffee when the communication officer, a young woman named Amy, turned pale. "Commander," she said, her voice shaking, "we are receiving distress signals, multiple signals." Hayes set down his coffee. "From where?" "Everywhere, sir. New Berlin, Station, the Luna settlements, 12 different locations." She paused and looked at her screen again. "They are all saying the same thing. They are under attack." Hayes felt his stomach drop. Under attack by whom? Before Amy could answer, the main screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had blue-gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. This was Hayes had seen pictures of them, but he had never spoken to one. The alien spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. The translation software converted his words to English. "Attention, humans, I am Supreme Commander of the Empire. Your species has been judged and found unworthy. Your colonies are burning. Your people are dying. You have one choice. Surrender completely or face total destruction. You have 24 hours to respond." The screen went dark. Hayes stood frozen for a long moment. Around him, his crew stared at their stations in shock. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Others looked angry, but no one spoke. Finally, Hayes found his voice. "Get me Admiral now." 2 hours later, Hayes was in a video conference with the most powerful military leaders on Earth. Admiral Jack sat at the center of the screen. He was an old man, nearly 70, with a face like carved stone. He had white hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much. Dr. Lisa Grant was also present. She was the chief science officer of the Defense Council, a brilliant woman who had spent her life studying alien species. Her face was calm, but Hayes could see her hands shaking slightly. "The reports are confirmed," Admiral said. His voice was flat and cold. 12 colonies attacked simultaneously. Casualty estimates are still coming in, but we are looking at millions of dead. They used heavy weapons on civilian targets. They did not warn anyone. They did not ask for anything. They simply attacked. A general named Rick Palmer spoke up. "Why? We have never had any conflict with we do not even share any border territories with them." Dr. Grant answered, "I have been studying their communications. The Empire has been expanding for centuries. They conquer species they consider weak. They saw our peaceful nature as a sign of weakness. They thought we would be easy prey." "They thought wrong," Admiral said. Hayes watched the Admiral carefully. He had expected panic. He had expected confusion and fear. Instead, he saw something else entirely. He saw cold, focused anger. "Sir," another officer asked, "what do we do? They want us to surrender." Admiral leaned forward. "Let me tell you something about humans. We came from a planet where everything tried to kill us. We survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We climbed out of caves and reached the stars, and we did not do it by surrendering." He stood up from his chair. "They think we are soft because we chose peace. They do not understand. We chose peace because we know what we are capable of when we choose war. They are about to learn." Turn to his aide. "Activate all reserve fleets. Open the sealed shipyards on Mars and Europa. Begin full military production across all sectors, and send a message to every human in the galaxy." "What message, sir?" the aide asked. "Look directly into the camera. Tell them that Earth remembers. Tell them that we are coming." Within hours, the message spread across human space, and something remarkable happened. There was no panic. There was no chaos. Instead, humanity moved as one. On Earth, factories that had been idle for decades roared back to life. Men and women who had never held a weapon signed up by the millions. Scientists who had been working on peaceful projects turned their minds to war. On distant colonies, survivors of the attacks sent their own message back to Earth. They had lost their homes. They had lost their families, but they had not lost their will to fight. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched the reports come in. He saw ships launching from hidden bases across the solar system. He saw weapons being loaded and soldiers being trained. He saw an entire species preparing for war. Amy approached him. "Commander, I have never seen anything like this. The recruitment numbers are off the charts. People are volunteering faster than we can process them." Hayes nodded slowly. "They made a mistake. They thought attacking us would break our spirit. Instead, they united us." On the received reports of human activity, his advisors told him about the military buildup. They told him about the anger spreading across human space. They suggested that perhaps the humans would be harder to defeat than expected. Dismissed their concerns. He had studied humans. He knew they were emotional creatures who cried at sad stories and hugged their children. Such weakness could not possibly translate to effective warfare. He would learn his mistake soon enough. Admiral held his final briefing of the day. He looked at his officers, men and women who had trained their whole lives for a war they hoped would never come. "They wanted a war," said quietly. "They just got one, and they are going to regret it for the rest of their very short lives." The officers saluted and left to begin their work. Earth was no longer sleeping. Earth was awake, and Earth was angry. They expected the war to last 3 months. They had conquered dozens of species in their long history, and none had ever resisted for longer than that. Humans would be no different. They were soft, emotional, and peaceful. They would cry, they would beg, and eventually they would surrender. 2 weeks after the first attacks, Supreme Commander received a report that changed his mood. "What do you mean they are already counterattacking?" he demanded. His intelligence officer, a nervous young named, held up a data tablet. "Our forward bases in the Sigma sector have been destroyed, all of them, in a single night." Grabbed the tablet and stared at the information. It did not make sense. Humans did not have enough ships for this kind of operation. Their fleet was supposed to be small and outdated. "There must be a mistake," he said. "There is no mistake, Supreme Commander. We have confirmed reports. The humans came with over 200 warships, ships we did not know they had." Deep beneath the surface of Mars, a massive door that had been sealed for 50 years slowly opened. Inside was a shipyard the size of a small city. Rows of warships sat waiting in the darkness, fully built and ready to fly. These were not trading vessels or exploration craft. These were weapons of war. Admiral stood at the entrance and watched the lights come on one by one. Beside him was Engineer Ben, a short man with thick glasses and messy hair. Ben had designed half of these ships. He had spent his entire career building weapons that he hoped would never be used. "How many ships are in here?" asked. 412, Ben replied. "All fully armed, all ready to launch. We have similar facilities on Europa, Titan, and in the asteroid belt. Total count is about 2,000 ships." Nodded slowly. "They think they know everything about us. They have been watching us for years, but they only saw what we wanted them to see." The truth was simple. Humanity had always known that the galaxy was dangerous. They had seen other species destroyed by war. They had studied the Empire and understood its hunger for conquest, so they had prepared. Quietly, secretly, They had built a military force that could stand against any enemy. They had just never wanted to use it. Captain Cole was known throughout the fleet as Ghost. She had earned the name during training exercises, where she consistently appeared out of nowhere to destroy her opponents. She was a small woman with short black hair and cold eyes. She did not smile often. She did not need to. Her squadron was assigned the first major offensive mission of the war. Their target was a supply line that fed their forward armies. Without supplies, those armies would starve. Cole briefed her pilots in a cramped room aboard the carrier Swift. There were 20 of them, young men and women who had never seen real combat. They looked scared. That was good. Fear would keep them alive. "They think we are weak," Cole told them. "They think we are going to roll over and die. Tonight we show them how wrong they are. We hit their supply ships, we destroy everything, and we disappear before they can respond." Questions. A young pilot named Danny Lee raised his hand. "Captain, there are reports of heavy patrols in that area. How do we avoid detection?" Cole smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "We do not avoid them, Lieutenant. We go straight through them. By the time they realize we are there, they will already be dead." The attack happened at 300 hours. Cole led her squadron through a gap in the patrol pattern, a gap that human intelligence had spent weeks identifying. They moved fast and silent, their ships running on minimal power to avoid detection. The supply convoy appeared on their sensors. 12 large transport ships, escorted by 8 warships. The transports were carrying food, ammunition, and replacement parts for the invasion force. Cole gave the signal. 20 human fighters accelerated to attack speed and opened fire. The battle lasted 11 minutes. The escorts tried to respond, but they were too slow. Human ships danced around their formations, striking weak points and disappearing before counterattacks could land. Cole herself destroyed 3 enemy ships, including the convoy commander. When it was over, all 12 transports were burning wreckage. 6 of the 8 escorts were destroyed. The remaining 2 fled into hyperspace. Cole had lost 2 pilots. Their names were Frank Miller and Jenny Santos. She would remember them for the rest of her life. News of the attack spread quickly. The galactic community, which had been watching the war with mild interest, suddenly paid much closer attention. Humans were not supposed to be able to do this. They were peaceful traders and explorers. Where had this military power come from? General Sam Tucker commanded Earth's ground forces. He was a big man with a deep voice and hands that looked like they could crush stone. His job was to hold the line on planets where ground troops had landed. Tucker stood in a command bunker on the colony world of New Haven. They had landed 30,000 soldiers here. Tucker had 8,000 defenders, but he also had something they did not expect. Human soldiers did not fight like other species. They did not stand in neat formations and exchange fire. They hid. They set traps. They attacked at night and vanished before dawn. They turned every building into a fortress and every street into a kill zone. The commander on New Haven sent increasingly desperate messages back to his superiors. His troops were dying in large numbers. They could not find the enemy. Every time they thought they had won, humans would appear from nowhere and strike again. "These creatures are insane," the commander reported. "They do not stop, they do not surrender, they fight like demons." Back on they read the reports with growing concern. This was not how the war was supposed to go. Humans were supposed to be easy. They were supposed to break. His chief advisor approached him carefully. "Supreme Commander, perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans are stronger than we anticipated." Turned to face him. His 4 eyes were filled with cold anger. "We do not negotiate, we conquer. Double our forces in all sectors. I want these humans crushed." But even as he gave the order, a small doubt began to grow in his mind. He had watched recordings of human soldiers in battle. He had seen them charge into certain death to save their friends. He had seen wounded humans refuse to retreat, fighting until their last breath. What kind of species did that? Dr. Lisa Grant had an answer. She presented her findings to the Defense Council in a secure room on Earth. They made a fundamental error, she explained. They saw our compassion and called it weakness. They saw our tears and assumed we could not fight. But they missed something important. The same capacity for love that makes us cry at sad stories also makes us furious when our loved ones are harmed. She showed images on the screen. Humans comforting each other after attacks. Humans volunteering for dangerous missions. Humans working around the clock to build more weapons. Our emotions are not our weakness, Grant said. They are our greatest weapon. They have no idea what they have awakened. Admiral stood at the end of the table. His face was grim but determined. The enemy expected us to fall in 3 months. It has been 2 weeks, and we are already pushing them back. This is just the beginning. We will not stop until every human colony is free. We will not stop until they understand exactly who they attacked. He looked around the room at his officers. They woke up a sleeping giant. Now that giant is going to teach them a lesson they will never forget. 3 months into the war, humanity launched Operation Thunderstrike. It was the largest military offensive in human history. Over 1,500 warships moved against positions across 12 star systems. The goal was simple: push the enemy back, retake what was stolen, make them pay. Lieutenant Park was 23 years old. He had joined the fleet 6 months before the war started, expecting a quiet career of patrol missions and training exercises. Now, he was flying a fighter into the heart of a battle that would decide the fate of millions. His squadron was assigned to attack a defense station orbiting a moon called Kestrel 7. The station protected a major enemy fleet. If they could destroy it, the fleet would be vulnerable. The battle was chaos. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Ships twisted and turned, firing weapons in all directions. Park flew through the mess, dodging debris and enemy fire. He destroyed 2 fighters and was heading toward the station when something hit his ship. The impact threw him against his restraints. Alarms screamed. His control panel sparked and went dark. Through cracked glass, he could see the moon growing larger. He was falling. Park tried everything he could think of. He rerouted power. He fired emergency thrusters. Nothing worked. His ship hit the surface of the moon hard, bouncing 3 times before finally stopping in a crater. When he woke up, his left arm was broken and his ship was destroyed. His communication system was dead. His rescue beacon was smashed. He was alone on an enemy-controlled moon with no way to call for help. Most people would have given up. Park was not most people. He splinted his own arm using pieces of his wrecked cockpit. He found his emergency supplies and counted what he had. Enough food and water for 5 days. A small pistol with 12 shots. A knife. Basic medical supplies. The base was visible on the horizon. If they found him, they would kill him. So he decided to find them first. Over the next 11 days, Park became a ghost. He moved at night, sleeping in caves and craters during the day. He watched the patrols and learned their patterns, and when he saw opportunities, he struck. He sabotaged their communication towers. He poisoned their water supplies. He set traps that killed 3 enemy soldiers. Each small victory gave him hope. On the 8th day, he found an equipment depot. It was lightly guarded. Using the last of his explosives, he destroyed it. The blast took out vehicles, weapons, and supplies that the enemy desperately needed. They sent search parties to find whoever was causing this damage. They never caught him. He was too careful, too patient. He was human. On the 11th day, rescue finally came. Human forces had pushed the off Kestrel 7. A search team found Park hiding in a cave, half-starved and exhausted but alive. When asked how he survived, Park gave a simple answer. I was not going to let them win, not while I could still move. His story spread across the fleet. It reminded everyone what they were fighting for, and what humans were capable of when pushed to the limit. While Park was surviving on Kestrel 7, Sergeant Drake was leading his Marines on a different mission. They were retaking the colony of New Haven. They had held New Haven for 2 months. During that time, they had treated the human population with cruelty. They had forced people to work in labor camps. They had executed anyone who resisted. They had destroyed homes and separated families. Drake was a big man with a shaved head and scars on his face. He had been a Marine for 15 years. He had trained for war his entire career, but nothing had prepared him for what he found on New Haven. His unit landed at dawn and pushed toward the capital city. The defenders fought hard, but they were outnumbered and human ships controlled the sky, destroying any enemy reinforcements. By noon, Drake and his Marines had reached the main labor camp. The gates were locked. Drake did not bother with keys. He blew them off with explosives and walked in. Inside, he found over 3,000 humans. They were thin and weak from months of poor food and hard work. Many were injured. Some were sick. But when they saw the Marines, they started crying with joy. A woman grabbed Drake's arm. She was maybe 40 years old but looked much older. Her face was covered in bruises. "They took my children," she said, her voice breaking. "Please, please find my children." Drake felt something cold settle in his chest. It was anger, pure, focused anger. "We will find them," he promised. "We will find everyone." It took 3 days to fully secure New Haven. During that time, Drake and his Marines discovered the full extent of cruelty. They found mass graves. They found torture chambers. They found records of experiments performed on prisoners. They also found survivors, men, women, and children who had hidden or been protected by others. Families were reunited. The woman Drake had met found her children alive in a hidden basement. When she hugged them, Drake had to look away. He was a tough man, but some things still made him cry. The testimonies from New Haven spread across human space. People who had supported the war effort worked even harder. People who had been uncertain became determined. Everyone understood now. This was not just about territory or politics. This was about protecting their own. Commander Laura ran intelligence operations for the human fleet. She was a quiet woman with sharp eyes and a memory that forgot nothing. Her job was to find out what the enemy was planning before they did it. Had agents everywhere. Some were humans who had been captured and then escaped. Others were members of alien species who hated the Empire. A few were themselves, traitors who had grown tired of their government's endless wars. 1 month after Thunderstrike began, received the best gift of her career. Her agents had captured a general named Vax. He was the 3rd highest-ranking officer in the enemy military. Interrogated him personally. She did not use violence. She did not need to. She used information. "Your fleet at Sigma 9 is running low on fuel," she told him calmly. "Your supply lines have been cut. Your Supreme Commander is considering abandoning them." Vax stared at her. "How do you know this?" Smiled. "We know everything. Your encryption codes, your fleet movements, the names of your officers and where their families live. We have been inside your systems for months." The general went pale. Among the family was everything. The thought that humans might harm their families was terrifying. Saw his fear and softened her approach. "We are not like you. We do not hurt families. We do not torture prisoners, but we will end this war. You can help us do it quickly and save lives on both sides." Vax talked for 6 hours. He told them everything he knew about defenses, plans, and weaknesses. The information he provided would save thousands of human lives. When the interrogation was over, reported to Admiral. "They are weaker than they appear," she said. "Their empire is overextended. Their people are tired of war. If we push hard enough, they will break." Nodded slowly. "Then we push, no mercy, no retreat, we finish this." The orders went out that night. Human forces would advance on all fronts. The enemy would have no rest, no peace, and no hope. They had wanted a war. They were about to find out what that really meant. 6 months after the war began, human fleets entered core territory for the first time. These were worlds that had never seen enemy ships. These were places where the people lived in comfort, believing they were safe. They were not safe anymore. Supreme Commander stood in his war room, staring at a holographic map of his empire. Red markers showed human fleet positions. 6 months ago, those markers had been far away, clustered around human colonies. Now they were everywhere. They were getting closer every day. "This is impossible," he muttered. "They were supposed to be weak." His advisors stood in silence. They had stopped giving opinions weeks ago. The last officer who had suggested surrender had been executed on the spot. No one wanted to share that fate. But someone had to speak. General, one of the few officers still trusted, stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, our forces are exhausted. We have lost 40% of our fleet. Our supply lines are broken. Our soldiers are deserting. If we do not negotiate peace soon, there may be nothing left to negotiate with." Turned to face him, his 4 eyes burned with anger. "You want me to surrender to these creatures? They cry at sad stories, they hug their children in public, they are nothing." "They are winning," said quietly. "Whatever they are winning." Grabbed a weapon from his belt and shot through the chest. The general fell to the floor, dead. "Does anyone else want to suggest surrender?" asked. No one moved. No one spoke. But in the shadows, plans were already being made. Officers who had served the Empire their whole lives were now thinking the unthinkable. The Supreme Commander had to go. Captain Cole had become a legend in the human fleet. Her squadron, now called the Ghosts, had destroyed more enemy ships than any other unit. She had been promoted twice and given command of a strike force of 50 vessels. Her new mission was the most important of the war. She was going to destroy the primary shipyard. The shipyard orbited a gas giant deep in enemy territory. It was where they built their largest warships. As long as it existed, the enemy could replace their losses. Taking it out would cripple their ability to fight. Cole studied the intelligence reports for 3 days. The shipyard was heavily defended. Gun platforms surrounded it in every direction. 200 warships patrolled the area. Any normal attack would be suicide. But Cole did not plan normal attacks. "We are not going to fight our way in," she told her officers. "We are going to sneak in." Her plan was insane. They would disguise their ships as vessels using captured codes and stolen hull plating. They would join an incoming supply convoy. When they were close enough, they would drop the disguise and attack. "The enemy will never expect it," Cole said. "They think humans fight fair. They think we follow rules. Time to show them how wrong they are." The operation launched 2 weeks later. Cole led her strike force through enemy territory, sensors hidden, weapons cold. They joined a supply convoy without anyone noticing. They flew alongside enemy ships for 6 hours, getting closer and closer to the target. When the shipyard appeared on sensors, Cole gave the signal. 50 human ships dropped their disguises and opened fire. The convoy was destroyed in seconds. The patrol ships scrambled to respond, but they were confused. They could not believe enemies were this deep in their territory. Cole's force raced toward the shipyard. They launched everything they had: missiles, torpedoes, energy weapons. The shipyard's defenses fired back, but human ships were faster and harder to hit. The explosions started small, then they grew larger. A chain reaction spread through the massive structure. Fuel tanks ignited, reactors overloaded, ships under construction broke apart. By the time Cole ordered the retreat, the shipyard was an expanding ball of fire. Years of construction capability, gone in minutes. Cole lost 12 ships in the attack, 12 crews who would never go home, but the mission was a success. The Empire had just lost its ability to rebuild. Back on Earth, Admiral received the news with grim satisfaction. He was tired. 6 months of war had aged him 10 years, but they were winning. That was all that mattered. Dr. Lisa Grant entered his office with new intelligence. She looked troubled. "I have been studying captured records," she said. "I finally understand why they attacked us." "Looked up, tell me." "The Empire has rivals, other powers that have been waiting for them to show weakness. By conquering humanity, wanted to prove the Empire was still strong. This war was never really about us. It was about pride." Closed his eyes. Millions of humans had died. Millions more had lost their homes, their families, their futures, all because one alien wanted to prove something. "That makes it worse," he said quietly. "That makes it so much worse." Grant nodded. "There is more, is losing control. There have been coup attempts. His own officers are turning against him. The Empire is cracking from the inside." "Good," said. "Let it crack, and when it falls, we will be there to finish it." He stood up and walked to the window. Earth hung in the darkness outside, blue and green and beautiful, everything he was fighting for. "Prepare Operation Final Dawn," he ordered. "We are going to end this." Grant hesitated. "Admiral, the is heavily defended. The losses could be enormous." "I know," said. "But if we do not end this now, the war will drag on for years. More people will die. More colonies will burn. We have to finish it." He turned to face her. "Send a message tell him we are coming. Tell him he has one chance to surrender. If he refuses, we will take everything from him." The message was sent, responded within hours. His answer was short. "The Empire does not surrender. Come if you dare. We will bury you." Read the response and shook his head. Stubborn to the end, very well. He opened a channel to the fleet. His face appeared on screens across human space. Billions of people stopped what they were doing to listen. "My fellow humans," said. 6 months ago our enemies attacked without warning. They burned our colonies. They killed our families. They thought we would break. They were wrong." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Tomorrow we launch the final offensive. We are going to end this war. It will not be easy. Many of us will not come back, but our children will live in peace. Our will grow up without fear. That is worth fighting for. That is worth dying for." He straightened his shoulders. "Earth remembers, Earth endures, and Earth will prevail. Good luck to all of you. Out." Across human space, men and women prepared for the final battle. They checked their weapons. They wrote letters to loved ones. They said prayers to whatever gods they believed in. They were scared. Of course they were scared, but they were also determined. They had come too far to stop now. They had started this war. Humanity was going to finish it. The combined human fleet arrived on a cold morning in March. 2,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons charged and their crews ready. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Commander Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the horizon, the same ship where he had first heard the news of the attack. That felt like a lifetime ago. He was not the same man he had been then. None of them were. "All ships in position," his communications officer reported. "We are ready, Commander." Hayes nodded. "Signal Admiral, tell him we are prepared to begin." Admiral Jack was aboard the flagship Resolution at the center of the human formation. He was 71 years old now. The war had broken his health but not his spirit. He had promised to see this through to the end. This was that end. "Open a channel to the command," ordered. "Let us give them one last chance." The channel opened. After a moment, the face of Supreme Commander appeared on the screen. He looked different from the confident leader who had demanded humanity's surrender 7 months ago. His eyes were tired. His skin was pale. He had the look of someone who had already lost but refused to admit it. Admiral said, "You have come to die." Shook his head slowly. "No, I have come to end this. Your fleet is shattered. Your empire is in chaos. You have nothing left. Surrender now and your people will be spared. Continue fighting and we will destroy everything." Laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think I am afraid of death? I am. We do not surrender, we do not beg, we fight until the end." "Your people do not have to die for your pride," said. "This war was a mistake, you know it, your officers know it, everyone knows it. End it now." For a moment something flickered in his eyes, doubt maybe, or regret, but then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "You call us proud," he said, "but I have studied your kind. You are just as proud, perhaps more. You could have surrendered and saved millions of lives. Instead, you fought. Why?" Leaned forward. "Because you attacked our homes. You killed our families. You thought our kindness was weakness. You were wrong. Humans do not fight because we love war. We fight because we love each other, and we will never ever stop protecting our own." Was silent for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. "I understand now," he said quietly. "I finally understand. We did not lose because your ships were better or your weapons were stronger. We lost because we never understood what we were fighting against." He straightened in his chair. "But understanding does not change anything. The Empire will not surrender, not while I lead it." The channel went dead. Sighed heavily. "So be it, all ships begin the attack." The battle for the lasted 18 hours. It was the most brutal fighting of the entire war. The defenders knew they were beaten, but they fought anyway. Every ship, every gun platform, every soldier gave everything they had. Human losses were heavy. Commander Hayes lost track of how many friends died that day. Ships that he had served with for years were destroyed in minutes. Good men and women, brave soldiers who had survived everything the enemy threw at them, were gone forever. But humanity pushed forward. They always pushed forward. Captain Cole led her ghosts through the heaviest fighting, breaking a hole in the enemy defense grid. Her ship was hit 7 times. Her co-pilot was killed. She kept flying, kept fighting, kept leading. Lieutenant Park, fully recovered from his ordeal on Kestrel 7, flew in the final assault wave. He destroyed 4 enemy ships and helped protect the troop transports that would land on the planet's surface. Sergeant Drake was on those transports. He led his Marines into the streets of the capital, fighting house to house, block to block. The enemy resisted fiercely, but they were outnumbered and by sunset it was over. The military command surrendered. Their fleet was destroyed. Their defenses were broken. Their supreme commander was captured trying to flee the planet. Was brought before Admiral in chains. The alien who had once threatened to destroy humanity now stood defeated and alone. "You have won," said. His voice was hollow. "What will you do now? Destroy us, enslave us, make us pay for what we did?" Looked at him for a long moment, then he shook his head. "No, that is not who we are. We are not going to destroy your people. We are not going to take revenge. We are going to make sure you can never threaten anyone again, and then we are going to leave." Stared at him in confusion. "I do not understand. We killed millions of your people. We burned your colonies, and you are just going to walk away." "We are going to rebuild," said. "We are going to heal. We are going to remember our dead and take care of our living. That is what humans do. We do not live for war. We live for each other." The peace treaty was signed 1 week later. The Empire was forced to disarm. Their fleet was reduced to a fraction of its former size. They paid reparations to the human colonies they had destroyed, and they agreed to never again threaten human space. The galaxy watched in amazement. Other species had expected humanity to destroy them completely. That is what they would have done. That is what most species would have done. But humans chose mercy. Dr. Lisa Grant published her research on the war 6 months later. Her conclusions spread across the galaxy. "Human emotions are not a weakness," she wrote. "They are humanity's greatest strength. The same love that makes them cry at sad stories also makes them fight to protect their families. The same compassion that leads them to help strangers also leads them to show mercy to defeated enemies. Underestimate humans at your peril. They are stronger than they appear. 1 year after the war ended, a memorial was built on Earth. It stood in a park in New York City, a simple wall of black stone with names carved into it. Millions of names, every human who had died in the war. Admiral spoke at the dedication ceremony. He was very old now and very tired, but he had one more thing to say. "We did not want this war," he said. "We did not start this war, but we finished it. And we finished it without becoming the monsters we were fighting. That is what makes us human. We can be fierce without being cruel. We can be strong without being brutal. We can win without losing our souls." He paused, looking at the names on the wall. "To those who gave their lives, we say thank you. We will never forget you. And we will spend the rest of our lives trying to be worthy of your sacrifice." The crowd was silent. Many were crying, but they were not crying from sadness alone. They were crying because they were proud. Proud of what humanity had done. Proud of who they were. Years later, a diplomat visited Earth. He was from a new generation, one that had grown up after the war. He did not remember the fighting, only the stories. He visited the memorial and stood looking at the names. A human child, a girl of about 8 years old, stood nearby with her parents. "Why did your people fight so hard?" the diplomat asked her. "You were peaceful before the war. You could have surrendered and saved many lives." The girl looked up at him with serious eyes. She thought about the question for a moment. "Because they hurt our family," she said simply, "and you do not hurt our family." The diplomat stood in silence. He finally understood what his ancestors had learned too late. Humans were not weak because they loved each other. They were stronger than anyone could imagine. Because when you hurt one human, you hurt all of them. And when you hurt all of them, they will never stop until they have protected their own. That was the lesson the galaxy learned from the human war. That was the lesson they would never forget. Earth remembers, Earth protects, and Earth will always fight for its family.